Joining us now, live in studio, looking dapper as ever, State Senator Kenny Alexander. He's running for mayor. This election is going to be decided on May 3rd in Norfolk. Very important election, not only for the city of Norfolk, the region, but the state of Virginia with a port and everything like that. 3 candidates in the race: State Senator Kenny Alexander, Councilman Andy Protegiro, and Sheriff of Norfolk, Bob McCabe. Senator, good to have you with us, man.
It's good to be with you, John.
Always fun here being in the studio. I love when local candidates come into the studio because you get to do that little eyeball to eyeball. Yes. So it's a lot more fun, a lot more conversational. Now, look, we had you on a week ago, and you kind of started this whole thing with me because you got me to thinking about change in Norfolk. And, when we talk about Norfolk, we talk about business, the port, the roads, but really the issues that seem to be driving this election are education, because you brought out, and this was shocking to me, and I can't believe that it's not in the media every day, 62% of Norfolk school children are on a subsidized meals.
Yes.
That's 2/3. So you got a poverty issue. And then 70% or now 60% of Norfolk schools are failing. They're under the accreditation standards. So if I'm living in Norfolk and I'm a single mom relying on public transportation, I'm making $10 an hour trying to feed my family, I've got my child going to school on public assistance, and I've got him in a school that's failing. I have no option. I can't get my child out. So he's imprisoned in a failing school. So the cycle continues. What are you going to do as mayor to really dig into this?
So, John, here's the solution. Every locality must have a family planning and assessment team. The state law requires localities to have one. We need to go into the schools, evaluate, assess the cause of children lagging behind. It's a systemic problem. It's a problem. We need to identify it. We need to address it. The second part of it is if these children have serious learning disabilities, or if it's just environmental, if it's culture, we need to address and to ensure that the wraparound services are there, seeking additional legislation from Richmond to start early, stay late, go year round, or even give a modified curriculum. The state is willing to help Norfolk to deal with the failing schools. We have high poverty, low academic achievement, and communities where crime is it's the norm. Senseless shootings, senseless murders, and these kids are witnessing a lot of these social ills, and they bring these social ills to the classroom. It makes it very difficult for a teacher or principal or for anyone to reach children who are coming to school in high poverty, low academic achievement, no enforcement at home. We need to just be serious about delivering a quality education, and it starts by assessing the home environment.
Now, Senator, and isn't that just a vicious cycle that keeps repeating itself? Poverty, bad school, low education graduation rate. Even those that don't have a very good education. That leads to crime. Then the whole thing starts over again. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. It's a dreadful cycle. It's a cycle that is a stain on humanity. And so the question is, how do we get out of this? Now, when we had Sheriff Bob McCabe on yesterday, he said, look, the biggest problem that we have is a starting school teacher salary in Norfolk is $7,000 under Virginia Beach or Chesapeake. So the best teachers go there or somewhere else. We get the worst. That feeds into it. But he didn't really give me an answer on where they would get the money in order to close that gap. How do you respond to that?
John, is not the school teacher. We cannot blame the school teacher for failing schools. It's parenting, it's poverty, it's crime. When you have 66% of your kids, more than 2/3 of your kids, qualifying for free or reduced lunch, and 1 in 5 families in Norfolk lives in poverty.
1 of 5, 20%.
20% living in poverty.
What you mean is that is below the poverty level.
That's correct. And out of your 44 schools, as we noted last week, a significant number is not meeting the minimum standards that the state has set. You cannot put it on the teacher. You have to put it on the council, the school board, the community, and more importantly, the person who's most responsible, the parents or guardians. It has to start there. So we have to assess, evaluate whether or not a child is in need of additional services. Provide the wraparound services first. Reinforce education, reinforce the teacher, reinforce the school board with the right policy, the right plans, and create environments where children are safe, teachers are safe, and that you have a learning community. We have 5 universities in Norfolk. 5. Norfolk is not known as a higher education hub or higher education center. We have Norfolk State, we have Old Dominion, Tottenham Community College, Virginia Wesleyan, and Eastern Virginia Medical School. They all are recognized by SHEV, the State Council of Higher Education. Why aren't we deploying some of those graduate students into the schools for their internship and their apprenticeship? Blacksburg is known as a college town. They have one, Virginia Tech. Lynchburg is known as a college town. They have Liberty. We have 5. No one looks at Norfolk as being a place for higher education.
That makes no sense.
Makes no sense. You have students, graduate students, undergraduate students who are studying education, early childhood education. What is the partnership? What is the relationship with Norfolk Public Schools and our institutions of higher education? We have the only freestanding children's hospital in Virginia is in Norfolk's CHKD. What is the relationship where you have pediatric neurologists, pediatric physicians? They are ready, willing to partner to help evaluate. When we send in the family planning and assessment team, we're sending the high skill, highly trained professionals to go in, report back. This is the problem with the child. Some of it is developmental, some of it is emotional, but some of it could just be social.
Senator Alexander, let's get back to your wraparound social services position. Now, one of your opponents the other day when I brought that up saying all that is bigger government, bigger welfare. That's all he said all Kenny Alexander wants to do is grow government in Norfolk.
Yeah, that's Washington-style rhetoric, and it's rejected here. We don't accept it here. By law, every locality has a family planning and assessment team. It's already in place. It's nothing new. It's not a new government program or government service. By law, if the person understood the law, then maybe they would not make such incorrect statements. Also, when persons make statements that Norfolk has already asked the General Assembly to start early, stay late, year-round, or modify curriculum, Norfolk Council nor Norfolk School Board has ever asked the General Assembly for our most challenged schools for additional time to start the curriculum or start the school day early, or to stay late, or have an extended day, or even to go year-round, or even for a modified curriculum. They can't point to one letter, memorandum of understanding, articulation, or in their legislative priority to the General Assembly that they have ever asked for it. I have the Secretary of Education, the Superintendent of Public Instruction, as well as the Governor ready to assist Kenny Alexander in making these things happen. I have Governor McAuliffe, he's ready. Secretary Ann Holton of Education, she's ready. The Superintendent of Public Instruction, they are ready to do whatever they can do to help Norfolk schools children.
Well, look, you have to do something. And I said this yesterday on our show. We had incumbent councilman from Super Ward 6, Barkley Wynn. And I asked him the same thing. I'm like, if you keep going down the same path, Councilman Wynn, you end up in the same place. And so that's also the definition of insanity if you think there's going to be a different outcome. And one of the things he said to me on the air that I was taken aback by, it actually took my breath away, is he said, I don't want to bash Norfolk. I want to cheerlead. And I'm like, I don't know how you can cheerlead a 60% school failure rate. I mean, there's just nothing to cheer there. And certainly for the kids trapped in there, there's nothing to cheer either. So you got to find an answer to this. So let's get back to your solution, because the sheriff said the answer is raising teachers' wages. You seem to be rejecting that.
I'm in favor.
As the panacea.
Yeah, I'm in favor of raising wages because teachers are professionals and they need to earn a livable and decent wage so that they can live in the city where they teach, in the city of their choice. However, raising salaries and throwing more money at the problem without change will lead to the same result. We need transformational change, and the only way you have transformational change is to take bold initiatives by going to the heart of the problem. The heart of the problem is poverty, is crime, is low academic achievement, and what is the root cause of it? It starts with the family. I've never seen a bad child, but I've seen a lot of bad parents and a lot of bad guardians.
Okay, so if you institute your plan, and I'm a single dad, and I'm living in Norfolk, and I have a $12 an hour job, and I've got 3 kids at home, and I'm doing the best I can, and I'm using public transportation, and they're home alone a lot, and they're not doing their homework, and I can barely put food on the table, what do you tell me?
The wraparound services that I just laid out will identify your need, and the partnerships with the various state agencies that exist will say, John, here are programs, here are services that are tailor-made, that are individual education plan for you and your family, because we see where the gap is, and we see we have identified through the assessment and evaluation. Do you agree? Because you're working, you're single dad, and you have a schedule that is unpredictable. So therefore, we must do what's in the best interest of the child. Family planning and assessment will identify with you at the table. You're part of the family planning and assessment team. Every locality, John, has a family planning and assessment team. Just like every locality must have a strategic plan or comprehensive plan or master plan as it relates to the city. The state law requires it. So I'm bringing the experience, I'm bringing the knowledge, I'm bringing the resources to Norfolk and ask, let's implement tools that are in our toolbox that's been given to us by the Commonwealth of Virginia, by the state. Let's just use these tools to make the change, to make the difference in our schools, in our children, in our community.
And Senator, you don't see that as expanding the welfare state and increasing dependency on the government in your city?
Actually, it will actually create independency. Children who are currently dependent, because for every $1 we spend early, we save $7 on juvenile justice, on adult corrections. So this is early intervention. This is identifying, assessing problems very early, transferring resources that are all resources that already exist, manpower or resources that already exist, to where they're best needed. Norfolk has 5,000 employees. Norfolk has a monthly payroll of $18 million. Norfolk has an annual budget of $1.26 billion. Norfolk has $812 million of discretionary spending. It's nothing new. You need to prioritize. If you have 5,000 employees, $18 million a month is Norfolk's payroll. We're not asking for anything addition. We're asking to prioritize and put the resources where they will be most effective, and that taxpayers will get the greatest bang for the buck. And more importantly, we're saving lives. We're saving children. We're identifying a problem, asking to transfer the resources to where the resources are needed, and hopefully we will get these children on a path where they will become world-class citizens, and they will become income-producing citizens of our society, of our global community. That's what we should be about.
So if you were elected mayor, you would be in favor of changing the school calendar in Norfolk, either adding time to the day for after school, making it legitimate so it's not optional, adding time in the summer, making it year-round. You would do something.
To identify the John who's a single dad, single parent who's working an unpredictable schedule, and where you have identified your child may be susceptible of getting in trouble without supervision, we must provide for those parents. Norfolk is a transit community. We have high military. We have a port. We have hospitals, and therefore parents should have those options. We're not a traditional community. Norfolk is a very urban city, a very transit city, and therefore we need to respond. We cannot operate in an outdated model, education model, or providing services model. We have to be very transient in our thinking as well.
Senator Alexander, we're out of time. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Senator Kenny Alexander running for mayor of Norfolk. There's 3 candidates in that race. Sheriff Bob McCabe along with Councilman Andy Prodigiro. This will be decided in a municipal election in Norfolk on May 3rd, open to any registered voter of the city. Exercise your right to vote. Vote for one of these candidates. What's your website?
KennyAlexander.com or AlexanderForMayor.com.
All right, that's pretty easy. AlexanderForMayor.com. This is the John Fredericks Radio Network.